Why does Diddy's name continue to surface in conversations about mysterious celebrity deaths and unusual Hollywood behavior? Lately, a growing number of people are pointing out that if you listen closely to how he once spoke about Whitney Houston, there are subtle clues suggesting he might have known more than he let on. According to some theories, this entire web of speculation links back to one central figure, someone believed to be the key connecting all these unsettling narratives. And I am pretty sure you already have a good idea who that person might be: Diddy and Clive Davis. Their dynamic has always sparked curiosity. Was their connection ever more than just business? Because honestly, they seem to reflect each other in more ways than one. There is this heavy, almost eerie energy that seems to surround both of them. It makes you wonder, was there ever something deeper between them? Especially when you look at how aligned they seem in tone and presence, and then you think about the timing. The Grammys were right around the corner. Just 2 days before, Whitney allegedly had a heated argument, and from what I have heard, Bobby Kristina may have witnessed parts of it. And then, suddenly, Whitney is gone. That is the part that lingers, the part that raises so many questions. Whitney Houston died on the eve of Clive Davis's iconic pre-Grammy party, a gathering that, disturbingly, continued downstairs while her lifeless body remained in a bathtub just floors above. Let that sink in. Why would Clive, the man who launched Whitney's career and claimed to care so deeply for her, choose to go on with the celebration, fully aware of what had just occurred? In his own hotel suite? How could he appear so unaffected? Now, bring Diddy into the picture. Is it possible he knows more than he lets on? Or even more unsettling, could he be part of something much larger, an inner circle operating in the shadows, where influence is protected and truths are buried? Many believe that the entertainment industry harbors an underground network, one that shields the powerful and silences those who ask too many questions. And if that theory holds weight, what exactly is Diddy's role within that structure? Things get even more complicated when you consider what Bobby Brown has said. He has publicly expressed that he believes there was foul play involved in both Whitney's death and their daughter Bobby Kristina's. In fact, he has repeatedly pointed to Nick Gordon, Bobby Kristina's ex-boyfriend, as someone he believes was not only involved in her death, but possibly in Whitney's as well. And all of this leaves one chilling question lingering in the air. What does the world still not know? And now, with Whitney Houston's name surfacing during Diddy's ongoing legal troubles, it seems like there is a lot more bubbling beneath the surface. Maybe even things Diddy himself has yet to confront. Honestly, the whole situation is wild, and I am going to break it down piece by piece. First, let us talk about the trial. During her testimony, Diddy's former assistant, Capricorn Clark, mentioned both Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. She was asked about Cassie's talent, and when Diddy's lawyer questioned why she did not consider Cassie very talented, Capricorn replied, "Talent to me is Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey." In other words, that kind of raw vocal brilliance, real live performance power, was not something she saw in Cassie, who she described as more of a studio artist. Comfortable in a booth with some technical help, but not a powerhouse like Whitney. But that was not the only time Whitney's name came up. During cross-examination, Cassie was asked if she remembered the night Diddy allegedly overdosed on opioids in February 2012, the very same time Whitney passed away. Cassie recalled the evening clearly. They had been out at a club in San Bernardino, later headed to a party at the Playboy Mansion, and eventually she went home. According to her, Diddy told her afterward that he had taken a powerful opioid and ended up in the hospital. Now, people are starting to ask, was Whitney's name mentioned by accident? Or is there something more intentional going on here? Even if the trial did not directly tie Diddy to Whitney's death, it has only fueled speculation and deepened people's curiosity. Some believe there is a larger connection, one that has yet to be revealed. Here is what we do know. Whitney was found unconscious, face down in a bathtub at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. The official cause of death was listed as accidental drowning. Toxicology reports showed small traces of cocaine, marijuana, Xanax, and a few other substances in her body. They also found signs of mild heart disease and some arterial blockage, typical for smokers. but nothing that suggested a heart attack strong enough to knock her unconscious. In fact, the coroner specifically noted that there was no clear evidence of a cardiac event. The drug levels in her system were not considered fatal, and the coroner even said the amount of cocaine used appeared minimal. That raises the bigger question. What exactly caused Whitney to become incapacitated in that bathtub, especially since the water was scalding hot? How did she end up in a position where she could not get out? Strangely, reports also revealed there was not enough water in her lungs to definitively prove drowning. That alone has led many to suspect that she may have been placed in the tub after she was already unconscious or dead. So, was Whitney's death really an accident? Or something far more sinister? The more you look, the more it seems this was not just a tragic coincidence. For many, it is starting to feel like the whole thing was planned. The deeper you go, the more tangled it all gets. Because now we are not just talking about Whitney Houston's death. We are talking about power, secrecy, image control, and possibly manipulation at the highest levels of the music industry. The real question here is, was Whitney Houston just a victim of unfortunate circumstances, or was she silenced? Let us start with the supposed relationship, or lack thereof, between Diddy and Whitney. Industry whispers say they were not close. Not business partners, not friends, not even acquaintances in passing. In fact, Whitney reportedly wanted nothing to do with Diddy. She was wary of what she called Hollywood games, and to her, Diddy represented everything fake, controlled, and toxic about the music industry. She saw him as a symbol of the machine she was desperate to escape. Yet, in public, Diddy has portrayed their connection very differently. Look at his appearance on Ellen, for instance. He told the story of being invited to Whitney's wedding to Bobby Brown, even though he admitted he was not close to her. He said he managed to get his name on the guest list because he was a hustler. He spoke warmly of her spirit and the way she made people feel seen, but the way he quickly positioned himself close to her legacy after her death has made people wonder, was this genuine grief or image management? Then there is the deeper rabbit hole, one that centers around the man many believe is Diddy's mentor, boss, and gatekeeper, CD. CD is a legendary industry figure, a music mogul known for building legends, and allegedly discarding them just as easily when they no longer fit the agenda. Many speculate that Whitney may have become a liability in CD's eyes. Perhaps she knew something. Perhaps she was getting too vocal, too unpredictable, too real. Maybe she had information she threatened to share. And maybe, just maybe, she needed to be silenced. And here is where it gets darker. There have long been whispers about the nature of Diddy's relationship with CD, not just business, not just mentorship, but personal, allegedly intimate. CD, himself in his memoir The Soundtrack of My Life, openly identifies as bisexual. He wrote that he had been in long-term monogamous relationships with 2 different men, and he detailed his first sexual experience with a man during the Wild Studio 54 Days in the 1970s. CD has been divorced twice and has often dodged rumors about his closeness with some of the artists and producers he elevated, including Diddy. In one interview with Pete Ganbarg on Rock and Roll High School, CD described meeting a 23-year-old Diddy who pitched him on the future of hip-hop and how it would break into the mainstream. CD may not have fully understood the culture shift back then, but he trusted Diddy and backed him. Now, fast forward to the present, and that mentorship has raised eyebrows. Some say CD gave Diddy opportunities not just because of talent, but because of a deeper personal bond. And in return, Diddy may have become loyal to CD in a way that goes beyond contracts or money. So if CD wanted someone gone, if someone like Whitney threatened to disrupt the system, would Diddy help make that problem disappear? That is what some people are asking, especially now when Diddy is facing mounting legal scrutiny and Whitney's name is coming up in trial testimony. The puzzle pieces may not all fit perfectly, but they are definitely starting to look like part of a bigger picture. And in that picture, Whitney may not have just died tragically. She may have died strategically. This is the kind of theory that sends chills down your spine. Not just because of what it suggests about Diddy, but because of what it implies about the entire music industry. If what people are alleging is even partially true, then we are looking at a system that goes far deeper than bad contracts or fame-hungry artists. We are talking about manipulation, control, silence, and sacrifice, all under the glittering surface of stardom. Let us unpack it piece by piece. When Clive Davis, often referred to in industry circles simply as C, first crossed paths with a young, hungry Sean Diddy Combs, the meeting might have seemed ordinary on the surface. But in hindsight, it was a pivotal moment that would quietly reshape the sound and structure of American music for decades to come. At the time, Diddy was just 23 years old, full of raw ambition, relentless energy, and the type of bold vision that often made him seem arrogant to traditionalists. But to Clive, something about him stood out. Diddy was not just trying to join the industry, he was determined to transform it. During their first real sit-down, Diddy came prepared. He brought with him a series of carefully selected tracks, songs he believed represented the future of hip-hop. He started by playing Craig Mack's Flava in Ya Ear, a gritty, booming anthem with unapologetic swagger, and a sound that was completely different from the polished, radio-friendly R&B Clive had championed for years. The bass was heavy, the lyrics sharp, and the energy unmistakably urban. After that, Diddy played a few cuts from a relatively unknown Brooklyn rapper by the name of Christopher Wallace, soon to be known to the world as the Notorious B.I.G. Each track hit differently. They were raw, street-driven, and filled with the kind of authenticity that Clive, though a veteran, was not entirely familiar with. But that was the magic of it. He felt something. The music was undeniable, and more importantly, it tapped into an audience that was growing larger, louder, and more culturally dominant with each passing year. Still, Clive was cautious. He had built his empire on polished acts: Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, Dionne Warwick, the kind of voices that brought elegance and crossover appeal. The hip-hop Diddy was offering was rough, controversial, and far more unpredictable. But Diddy was persistent. He did not just want Clive to like the music, he wanted him to understand the movement behind it. Diddy made his case with confidence. He told Clive that hip-hop was no longer a fringe genre. It was evolving into a cultural force, one that would soon dominate top 40 charts, influence fashion, redefine advertising, and change the way youth around the world related to music. Diddy argued that if the label wanted to stay ahead, they could not just observe the streets, they had to partner with them. Clive, ever the strategist, saw the writing on the wall. Though he admitted in later interviews that he did not fully grasp the scope of what Diddy was saying in that moment, he felt the conviction. He saw the hunger in the young executive's eyes. He heard it in the music. He understood that this was not just a kid trying to break an artist. This was someone ready to build a movement. That is when Clive made a critical decision. He opened the door, not just metaphorically, but literally. He invited Diddy to the label's weekly singles meeting, a highly exclusive gathering of top executives where songs were reviewed, careers were discussed, and release strategies were mapped out. This was not a room for dreamers. It was a room for decision-makers. And bringing someone like Diddy in was not typical. He was young, brash, and completely outside the system. But Clive believed that Diddy had earned the right to be in that room. At the meeting, Clive introduced Diddy not just as a producer or a promoter, but as someone who could help the company reach the street. It was an acknowledgement that the industry was changing, and that someone like Diddy, with his ear to the ground and a Rolodex full of rising talent, could be the bridge between two worlds. But this partnership was not without its price. Over time, whispers began to circulate about just how much Clive had invested in Diddy, not just in terms of mentorship or professional backing, but financially. It became known that Clive had given Diddy the startup capital to launch Bad Boy Entertainment, and for several years continued to help finance its operations. That kind of support is rare, especially in an industry where most young Black executives were forced to scrape and claw their way through closed doors. So, naturally, people began to ask, why Diddy? What made him so special? Some speculated that the relationship between Clive and Diddy went far deeper than business, suggesting personal dynamics and unspoken agreements that helped solidify their bond. Whether true or not, what is undeniable is that Clive helped put Diddy on a path that changed music forever. Bad Boy would go on to launch some of the biggest names in hip-hop and R&B. It created a sound, a culture, and an empire. Looking back, that moment, when a young Diddy played Clive a handful of hip-hop tracks, was not just a pitch meeting. It was a test. And Diddy passed. He proved that he was not just a hustler with good taste in music. He was a visionary. And Clive, to his credit, was wise enough to listen. Sometimes all it takes to change the course of music history is the right ears in the right room. In this case, it was a bold young voice and a seasoned legend coming together in a rare alignment of risk, trust, and timing. The result? A legacy that still echoes through the sound of every beat that hits the charts today. But trust like that does not always come for free. There has always been speculation that Diddy's success came with strings. Not just mentorship or guidance, but submission. Rumors persist that Clive's support came at a personal cost, that Diddy had to engage in a deeper, possibly intimate relationship to gain and maintain access to that kind of power. These rumors are difficult to prove, but they have never fully gone away. More troubling, though, is the growing theory that Diddy was not just Clive's protege, he was his enforcer. According to this theory, Diddy was the one who handled problems. Silenced. Dissent. Protected the empire from exposure. If someone like Whitney Houston, a woman with legendary talent, industry knowledge, and reportedly a desire to step away from the machine, posed a threat, then someone needed to handle it. And that someone might have been Diddy. Now here's where Bobby Brown comes in. Bobby has often been painted as unstable, erratic, or damaged by fame and substance abuse. But those who listen closely hear something else beneath the chaos: grief, guilt, and knowing. In his book and interviews, Bobby has hinted that Whitney's death was not as random as it seemed, that there were forces around her, watching her, managing her, perhaps even silencing her. Is Bobby crazy? Or has he just seen too much and been unable to fully say it? Consider this. Why would a man still publicly mourning his ex-wife, the mother of his child, make repeated vague allusions to conspiracy and foul play unless he felt something deeper had occurred? Maybe he lacks the power or proof to name names. But maybe his outbursts are really warnings in disguise. Now ask yourself, why would Diddy, who Whitney reportedly disliked and avoided, be so eager to align himself with her legacy after her death? Why would he speak so warmly about someone he barely knew? And why, when Whitney started pulling away from the system, did she end up dead in a hotel room, alone, surrounded by eerie circumstances, right before a Clive Davis Grammy party? If you believe the rumors, the price of being protected in this industry is not just money. It is obedience, silence, sometimes even blood. So yes, maybe Bobby,